This is the most ridiculous Strand build I've played with so far. With this build, hunters can use and abuse the grapple melee combo infinitely. Thanks to our exotic Assassin's Cowl, we get invisibility while using Strand and healing when you use this melee, and then with our build and mod system, we can get our grapple grenade back infinitely to trigger this fun gameplay loop again and again. We generate orbs of light thanks to the new mod system, and then use these to recharge our grapple grenade and also provide damage resist on top. So in this video, I'll be going over my Strand build, the mods I've set up that allow me to pull off these plays, and the weapons I recommend pairing with this build that further enhance the grapple gameplay. At the heart of this build is our exotic helmet, the Assassin's Cowl, which grants invisibility and restores health on a powered melee final blow. Now, the threaded spike, the Strand melee ability counts for this, but in my eyes that's a really weak ability. The real gem is that the melee from the grapple counts as a powered melee, and that can be spammed again and again without cooldown as long as you can use your grapple. Now, that melee is much more powerful in my eyes, and it causes enemies to become unraveled, which can spawn further tangles. Tangles are super important for this build because you can use them again and again to grapple infinitely. Our aspect Widow's Silk gives us a second grenade charge and causes our grapple to create a tangle at the point where we use the first one. So the key for the gameplay loop is to utilize these tangles as much as feasibly possible to melee enemies again and again. I often use my grapple above a group of enemies rather than directly on them, so that I can grapple back and forth and keep executing my powered melee attack again and again. What I didn't realize until much later is that you can also use tangles drop from killing enemies as well infinitely, so keep an eye out for these as well. Now, to abuse these tangles, you need to have at least one grapple charge in the bank ready to go. And if you want to move on to a new area to grapple, you need to have regenerated your second grapple back so that you can repeat this gameplay loop. So we need to synergize our Strand build and our mods as much as possible for maximum grenade recharge. So for our Strand build, I'm using Gambler's Dodge because this refunds our Threaded Spike melee ability, and although that isn't a great melee, it can come in handy sometimes to trigger Assassin's Cowl or generate Orbs of Light. We're obviously using Grapple Grenade and Widow's Silk as discussed before, and then for the second aspect, unfortunately we don't have any choice currently but to use Ensnaring Slam. We don't actually utilize the suspend here in this build, we want to use our dodge normally to get the melee back, so in the future if there's more aspects released, then those will probably be better. For our fragments, we use Thread of Ascent, which will continuously have up thanks to our Grapple Grenade ability, which gives us a free reload and buff to handling and airborne effectiveness. Thread of Fury, which refunds our Threaded Spike melee energy when you pick up a tangle and damage enemies with it. Thread of Warding, which grants Woven Mail when we pick up an Orb of Power, an ability which provides damage resist in both PvP and PvE. And finally, our last fragment is a complete filler at the moment, but in the future, I think a much better option will be Thread of Propagation, which will give our Strand weapon unraveling rounds when we execute a powered melee final blow. This could really take this build to the next level as we are constantly using our powered melee depending on how potent unraveling rounds are going to be. For our mods, the key mod here is going to be Heavy Handed, which lets our powered melee generate orbs of power. Now, the rest of the build is focused on regenerating as much grenade energy as possible, so we run Double Grenade Kickstart, which gives back a chunk of our grenade energy when we use it, and yes, for some reason it's working even when we have 2 grenade charges, which wasn't the case before Lightfall. You'll actually notice in the gameplay this actually procs every time we use an existing tangle to gain back a further chunk of grenade energy. I then run Triple Innovation so I can gain back more grenade energy each time I pick up an Orb of Power, Triple Bomber on my cloak so that I can gain more grenade energy each time I dodge, and then on the chest piece you can run whatever mods you want to reduce incoming damage. I would avoid utilizing too many armor charge mods as you want most of your armor charge to refund your grapple back through Grenade Kickstart. Then on my helmet I run whichever siphon mods that synchronize with my weapons to generate even more Orbs of Light. The build priority is pretty straightforward here. Number 1 is Discipline. You want this to be 100 so you can get back your grapple as quickly as possible. In number 2 is Resilience so you can get as much damage resist as possible. Remember 10 Resilience provides 30% damage resist, but nowadays 8 or 9 is acceptable for most PvE content. Number 3 is Mobility so we can dodge more often, which triggers Bomber and refunds our Threaded Spike melee. Then go for recovery, intellect, and strength in that order. Strength is last because, as you've realized when watching this video, our melee is actually linked to our grenade energy and not our threaded spike melee. For weapons, on the off chance you do run out of grapple grenade energy, I would run weapons with demolitionist, which gives back 10 to 20% grenade energy per kill depending on if you're using a primary or secondary weapon respectively. There are tons of weapons out there with demolitionist, so I'm not going to list them all, but one weapon I cannot recommend enough with this build is something like Salvage's Salvo, which has chain reaction and demolitionist, so one shot from the weapon can kill multiple enemies and refund a ton of grenade energy. So there you have it guys, my infinite grapple melee build that will make you feel like Spider-Man in Destiny. It's definitely one of the most fun builds I've used with Strand so far. If you enjoyed what I talked about today, remember to drop a like or subscribe to the channel for more PvE and PvP guides. I'm Mr. On It, and that's it for today. Peace out guys.